Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is TDT, the Developing Trader, coming back at you again with another video. So, how goes it, my friends? How have you been? Let's take a look at what we got coming up on the schedule this week. For my oil traders, keep in mind we have OPEC JMMC meetings all week. Keep that in mind. We know what's going on with oil over there in Iran. There's a lot of action happening out here in these markets. So on Monday at 10 a.m., we have ISM Services PMI at 10 o'clock. We'll see how the market responds. On Tuesday in the pre-market, we got ADP weekly employment change. At 8:30, we got core durable goods orders, and durable goods orders coming in 8:30. Then we have RCM tip economic optimism tentative on Tuesday. We have FOMC member Goolsby speaking. At 3 p.m., we got consumer credit. 4:30, we have API weekly statistical bulletin. And at 5:50, man, Tuesday is packed. At 5:50, we have FOMC member Jefferson speaks. So maybe we'll have some action going on in the Asian market on Tuesday evening. Then we got Wednesday crude oil inventories coming in at 10:30. At 1:01, we got the 10-year bond auction. And at 2 p.m. on Wednesday, we have FOMC. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is a FOMC week. FOMC protocol should be put in place for those that follow that criteria. Thursday at 8:30, we got core PCE price index. We got final GDP price index, unemployment claims. You know what's going on. I have all of the. I normally don't put the yellow folders in here. This is what I'm normally looking at. Like, but it's good to know all those things are happening. There's a lot going on this week. Keep that in mind. So for the orange and red folders is what we're really looking at. So we got FOMC meetings, and then we got Thursday at 8:30 core PCE price index month over month in the pre-market. Things may get busy Thursday morning. That'll probably maybe be setting either the high or the low of the week, happening somewhere in that morning. That's possible. We'll take a look and see what happens on our next week video. And then Friday we have core CPI and CPI. And then we got preliminary UOM consumer sentiment inflation expectations happening at 10 a.m. So every day we have a lot of action going on. On Monday we have a red folder. On Tuesday we got 2 orange in the pre-market. That'll be setting the tone for what's happening this week. Then we got Wednesday. We may have a big move, and then FOMC just comes and washes it away. We'll take a look at the chart once we get to NQ. But let's jump into the chart and see what's going on. All right. So we got Dixie coming up first, US dollar. And this is what I'm looking at this week. Last week, there was not a lot of action. We talked about how this area of price was taken, and we wanted to see if it had the strength to get back. It's just been consolidating in there. I noticed it didn't say that we were going to have a holiday on Friday, but I noticed that morning it was a holiday. I did get an email from my broker telling me that there was going to be a holiday, but that didn't show up on the Forex factory. I don't know why that was, but in any case, so we're watching this inversion gap right here. You can see prices responding off of that. You can see the bodies here after going through it, really respecting that area. And it's taking this high, so we want to see if it has the strength to get in here or if it wants to keep breaking down. But this would be the next area in price I'm looking for it to tag, but it needs to get above this, and then this will be a stepping stone on our way to these areas in price. We'll see how much strength US dollar has That's from a weekly. On the daily, you can see here at this point, let's take a look at this gap that it's in, and it's kind of closing above that gap. I want to see where price opens. It closed out on Friday in the morning, so we'll see where it opens at, and that'll tell us a lot about what it wants to do early in the week. But it looks like it wants to gear up and go for these areas here in price. We'll see if it has the strength to do so. We got FOMC this week, a lot going on, so we gonna see. Let's take a look at NQ real quick. Okay, now over here I want to focus in on the quarterly chart here, right? And I've shown you this chart for a few weeks now, and I told you before we got into this gap that this is the gap we were wanting to see if it would dip in and how much strength it would have once it dipped in, you know, because if it was more of, you know, aggressive, it would have closed that on that run down. You get what I'm saying? And maybe go into the gap below, but instead we pull back, creating this wick inside of this gap, and the next quarterly candle opening in this area. So from where we're at on this 3-month, right, we already created a wick below. So we want to see if price wants to maintain strength. If it wants to come down, we want to see how it reacts as it flows through these portions of that wick. And you can find a lot of trades moving in those areas that have a lot of strength. But it all depends on what it wants to do right now. So on a monthly, right now, we are sitting in this gap. Oh man, don't do it to me. Okay, and this is a new month. We're now in April. This is the beginning of April. Come on. I'm sorry guys, I might have to like do a little edit to make it so. Okay, it's in the gap right now, but like I was saying, on the weekly and even on this monthly, I believe it's going to move into this very illiquid price above the market. You can see where there's no bodies in there. If it wants to get aggressive, first it has to get through this gap, and I would want to see some strength as it gets through this gap to get into this gap. Not even going for all-time highs, but just getting back here is a possibility, and that would kind of balance out these very illiquid ranges that I was showing you last week when we did this analysis and projection. I said that price would probably come back into these areas, and it's kind of doing that. So we want to see, like, there's a lot of gaps here now that can push price even lower. Like right there, it already tapped into this gap, but it may want to go and give another push, because on the daily, this is something I wish I showed you guys when I was doing the first video. I saw when it fell and I was like, oh, we got a gap right here. That could be a potential inversion gap. And even if it ultimately comes back and breaks that right there, you could do a lot with that right there, you know. So right now it is still sitting in this gap. I'm gonna remove everything else, remove these drawings, give you a fresh look on a daily. We want to see more strength getting through this gap here. It's already tapped up, it fell back, it's pulled back into this gap. So this is what I'm eyeballing right now. This, and on the way down, if it keeps falling tomorrow, you want to take a look at these areas as it's falling tomorrow, and it may give you a little more information. I may try to do a live stream of me trading one of the pre-market mornings, and I'll give you a little rundown on how I address price. I feel like it's a lot of liquidity sitting up here that it may just want to come and tag out, and that wouldn't even negate the bearishness. It'll just be like a big run. Everyone gets excited and they sell into the run at the liquidity, and we might take another stab lower. Not saying that that's what's gonna happen. This is definitely not trading advice. I'm just a dude that you clearly see barely knows what he's doing. So I'm a developing trader here, and I just say that it may still want to come down and get this liquidity below. And right now we're in that gap. Until we close that gap, it's suspect, and then we got gap sitting below. I see this liquidity above that it may want to tag. I wouldn't be surprised if it came up, did that, and then still gave a really deep fall and still get the liquidity below the market. So take your time day by day and make sure you're sticking to your strategy, okay? So this is TDT. This is my analysis for this week. I hope you guys are having a good week. Hope you're staying blessed. Hope you're keeping a positive mind. And I hope you're, most of all, protecting your capital. All right? Y'all have a good week. TDT out. Peace.